Going live. Hey everybody, how you doing? This is the pre-show for those of you who aren't aware of it. This is what we do. We go live on the radio station at 4 minutes and 26 seconds past the top of the hour. And this is our pre-show. I got to fire up our audio hijack for the radio station. We get a little feedback on that, so I've got to bring the sound down. Bada boom, we are ready there. How's everybody tonight? How's everybody who's joining us over in the chat room? Let me get banners going. Boom, 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 and boom. Banners up. We are ready to roll, I think. Just a couple of minutes left. 2 minutes left till we go live. Hey, Rudy Kessler. Good to see you. Matthew Sainsbury over in Barbados. Good to see you. Uncle Dave Potter. Good to see you. And did I see Matt Finn or did mine eyes deceive me? I'm not sure if he is here already or not. No, I saw Matthew. And Robert V. Good to see you. As people start to pile in, good to see you. A couple more minutes and we'll be going live. So, just got to make sure everybody, I don't know what I'm saying because I'm doing 3 things at once. So, bear with me. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Let's get back to our... Hey, Lucky Smith. Good to see you. Happy Monday. Barbie D. Good to see you as well. Hope everybody's doing fine. I've got a few pictures uploaded for tonight. For those of you who are going to be listening on the radio, well, you can't hear me yet because we're not on live on the radio station yet. So we're getting darn close, though. Let me get ready to roll here. We got that. We got that, and we got that. Okay, as soon as 9:25, 4 minutes and 25 seconds hits in about 12 seconds here, we're going to roll it. So we're going to go dark. I'll see you in a few seconds. Stand.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Hey folks, happy Monday. Welcome to the program. This is Scotty Roberts, your host, same as always for the Intrepid radio program, my show, right here on Odyssey Radio. That's ODYSY radio.com. Go on over to hear the audio version of this show and replays of it every so often. I think tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. they replay this show in its audio format. You can also join the simulcast of this show live in 4 different places. 3 of them over on Facebook and 1 of them on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And while you're there, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Hit the thumbs up, definitely. And also, if you want to join the channel, which is a step beyond just subscribing, you can do that. Click on the little join button down below the window, and it'll show you 3 ways that you can become a member of this channel. And I want to welcome you all. I said hello to as many of you as I could in the pre-show. And Grumpy Stack, I see you're there, and June Shasta, and Sarah Yusuf, good to see you, and Stylish Birch, and I saw somebody I didn't recognize, Ryan Bartlow, I think. Welcome to the show. And so everybody, welcome to the program. And tonight we're going to delve a little bit into an area that I am familiar with, I am well-versed with, wrote a book about the topic, but there are certainly other people out there that are much more knowledgeable on the topic than I am. I just add, as I say, add an apple to the apple cart, and somebody else is going to add another apple to the apple cart someday. Now, as you know, if you've seen the title for tonight's show, about Mount Sinai, where is the real Mount Sinai? What is the real Mount Sinai? I have a particular opinion on this, but I always said, even back in 2012 and 2013, when John Ward and I wrote our book, The Exodus Reality, for New Page Books, we both I expressed that, you know what, I'm 98% sure I'm right on this. That doesn't mean more information can't come along and controvert, controvert, is that the word I'm looking for? Make me change my ideas on the Mount Sinai and elements of the Exodus. But I believe the dating system I had put in place is solid. I believe that, let's just get into this part right away. I will say that there are several aspects that of history and archaeology that have me believing that the Exodus took place around 1445 to 1446 BCE. Now, many of you have heard this before. Many of you have read the book. I think it's right here somewhere. Hang on. If I've got it, I'll show it. There it is. This is the book John Ward and I did, The Exodus Reality. That's not what the topic is about tonight. I'm just going to reference some things that we wrote about in this particular book. And you might want to pick this up. It's full of pictures. Yeah, pictures, baby. Pictures make books easy to read. And so a theory that I had put forth was that I believe the Exodus took place during the 18th dynasty, and that the pharaoh of the Exodus was Amenhotep II, who was the son of Tutmosis III, who was the son of Tutmosis II, the son of Tutmosis I, and that Moses would have grown up during the reigns of many of these fellows. He was alive during all of them. Tutmosis I would have been the pharaoh who was on the throne, I believe, when Moses was born, around 1526 BCE. Now, you can ask, because there's a lot of people out there that will look at the Exodus, look at the historical facts at any particular point of view, plugs into the Exodus and ask, well, how can you be that certain? Isn't the Exodus just an archetypical story? Is it something that really happened? And Sarah Yusuf said she found the geography of Mount Sinai interesting. It's very interesting, depending on which one you look at. And so, because there's at least 3, maybe even 4 different sites that they say are the biblical Mount Sinai from the Exodus story. Well, the timeline I put together, one of the hinge pins of the timeline, well, I actually have 2 of them, and some of it depends on your trusting the veracity of the written scriptures. Now, you may disagree with the faith in any particular scripture. Let's just take the Old Testament. I have a lot of people say, well, that's just a book of fantasy. I beg to differ. It is not. It is quite an historical book with faith stories wrapped around historical events. So you have to ask, how do you know? Well, there are a couple of places. We've talked about this before, so I'm going to breeze through some of this. But in 1 Kings 6, chapter 6, verse 1, it talks about it being the X number 4th year of Solomon's reign, something like that. And he starts to build the temple in Jerusalem. The temple which sat on where now the Mosque of Omar sits, the whole temple compound there. That's the sacred site in Jerusalem, in what would become Jerusalem. Well, what was Jerusalem at the time of Solomon. And that he started building the temple, I think it was in the 4th year of his reign, but it also says in the biblical text, it says, and this, when he dedicated the temple in Jerusalem, it was the 480th year since Israel's leaving Egypt under Moses during the Exodus. Now, we know pretty much beyond a shadow of a doubt, even though there's discrepancy about Solomon's existence and so on, lots of controversy, we know that Temple 1, as it's referred to archaeologically, in Jerusalem, Temple 1 was built right around 966 BCE, give or take 3 to 6 years in either direction. So really the median point is 966 BCE. And so 966, you take the 480 years, you end up at 1446 BCE as the probable date of the Exodus. And then that's how we go to some of the chronology of the kings of Egypt, find out who was on the throne, what was going on. Now, that's one hinge pin, is a biblical textual point, 1 Kings 6:1. Another one is the destruction of the city of Jericho. Now, if you remember, after the Exodus, the Israelites, according to the biblical account, wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. They were a nomadic tribe of people before they could enter the promised land for all sorts of reasons, disobedience, things that God said you can't enter, things like that. I don't think that doesn't mean that people didn't filter off and go do things on their own. There's one tribe, the tribe of Dan, that split off all on its own and went to the north of Israel, what is now Israel. So you've got all these events going on, but it's 40 years before they officially start the conquest of the land of Canaan. And the first battle they had is the very famous under Joshua, the new leader of the people after Moses' death. He leads the attack on the city of Jericho. And of course, we're told in the biblical text it's all a spiritual thing, that they circle the city 7 times with all of the army. They circle the city, and then on the 7th time they blow the shofar, and the walls come tumbling down of Jericho. And we all know the old Negro spiritual, as politically incorrect as the word is, they're still called Negro spirituals. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho and the walls came tumbling down. We all know those old songs and the old stories. So you start looking at that archaeologically. Kathleen Kenyon was one of the archaeologists in the 30s. No, she was in the 50s. And there was a guy before her, and I can't think of his name. But he had determined that the destruction of Jericho was right around 1400 BCE. And Kathleen Kenyon thought that it was a later destruction based solely on the non-existence of certain bits of pottery. It was what's the island? Cypriot pottery. The non-existence of it. It would have been there because it was prolific throughout the area. And so she based her whole decision on dating it based on not finding a certain kind of pottery, rather than on what was there for, as brilliant a field archaeologist as she was. So they've gone back, of course, and they've looked at this all over and over again. And what you didn't have Cypriot pottery, but you had copies of Cypriot pottery done in Canaanite pottery that was painted to look like Cypriot pottery. It's like getting your fake Gucci bags, kind of thing. And so the pottery did exist. So the date is pretty firm that it was right around 1405 BCE was the destruction of the city of Jericho. Now, this would have been under the leadership of Joshua. And by the way, in the ruins, they did find that the walls tumbled outward from the city and fell. And at first, they couldn't find this because there was this big, almost like ramps going up one side of the city of tumbled down mud brick. And then the foundation stone of the city was behind that. So the city had this foundational wall of stone, and on top of that, mud brick. And what tumbled out was the mud brick, and it came down on top of that stone wall and created almost a ramp. The passage in this text also says, and after the walls fell, the Israelite army charged up into the city using this as a ramp. And so it's interesting archaeology. The interesting thing about the destruction of Jericho is that the city was uninhabited for almost 800 more years, which would place that, you take 1400 and go down 8. What would that leave you with? That would leave you about 600 BCE before the city was once again occupied. Now, those who placed the Exodus and so on beneath Ramses II, he was in the 1200s, which would have been 200 years, 150 years after the destruction of Jericho. So I believe that the biblical account is accurate historically. The number of years is accurate historically. It happened 480 years before the building of the temple in Jerusalem, Temple 1, by Solomon. And it happened, the destruction of Jericho took place in 1400 to 1405 BCE. So which is exactly 40 years after the destruction of, approximately 40 years after the Exodus date of 1446. So it's very interesting when you start to look at these things. And so now there was always a question about where was Mount Sinai? Now, there is a traditional Mount Sinai. Those of you listening on the radio, you will not have the benefit of seeing this unless you also take a quick peek over at the one of the video channels we've got up. You can take a look at my YouTube. I'm going to show you this. Which one is it? The traditional site is a place called Jebel Musa. And I'm going to add that to the stream. Now, you have seen this city before, or this mountain before, most probably. You've seen it in paintings of what they see as Mount Sinai. There is a monastery here at the foot of this mountain. I believe that's all the way down in the lower left. You can see some of the buildings, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere down in there, there's a monastery that was built there, because this was the mountain of Moses, Jebel Musa, and they say this is the traditional Mount Sinai site. Now, it was so famous, and for hundreds of years, that they even used it. Cecil B. DeMille used it in his movie, The 10 Commandments, with Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner and all, and this is a scene from that movie. And you see the mountain used as a backdrop painting in here, an inset. And you've got Charlton Heston up here in the upper right, and Yvonne DiCarlo, who later became Mrs. Munster on the old series in the 60s, The Munsters, as Zipporah, his wife-to-be, in this scene. And so there you have Mount Sinai. And it was also depicted in the movie to look like this, when God was present. So this is supposed to be the Israelites all encamped down on the bottom on the desert floor. And this is your Mount Sinai. So that is Jebel Musa. That is the traditional site. And once again, as it looks today, there's the traditional site of Mount Sinai. Now, the only problem with this site is that there is little to no archaeological evidence to prove that this is the site. And this is a place that is very interesting to look at, but and very interesting. They thought this was the place for certain reasons. I'm not going to get into those. And it has been for hundreds of years. I think St. Catherine's was built like in the 1100s, if not earlier than that, the monastery there. And so this is a site that is located. I'm going to show you a map here. Let's see if I've got it on this map. St. Catherine's. No, it's not on here. If you look at the Sinai Peninsula, I can't point to it here. You can't see my mouse. At least I don't think you can. But look at the Sinai Peninsula on this map. And I have, you see the yellow line. That's what we're going to talk about tonight a little bit. But the place that I have always thought was Mount Sinai was Serebet El Khadim, which you see right about central west Sinai Peninsula. St. Catherine's is over almost on the central east if you drop south a little bit. And I don't have it marked on this map, sorry to say. But that's where they place that's where Mount Catherine, Mount Sinai is, blah, blah, blah. Getting it mixed up, not Mount Sinai. St. Catherine's at what they call Mount Sinai, Jebel Musa, the mountain of Moses. So let me take a look at that map for a minute, and that gives you an idea what we're talking about here. So now there was a man named Ron Wyatt who has been a little discredited over the years, probably because people don't like the fact that he's done. I don't know what to make of Ron Wyatt myself, but he was the one who said he discovered what he thought was the real Mount Sinai. And there were other explorers, adventurers that would go and find it. And it's over actually if you look at the yellow path that I've got marked on this map, Jebel al-Laz. And that's over in Saudi Arabia, across the Gulf of Aqaba. So one of the theories is that if you look at this map, you see way up at the top center, I've talked about the Exodus before, the land of Goshen in Egypt, and Avaris. You can see the city of Avaris right beneath the word Nile Delta is Avaris. That's the old city of Pi-Ramses. And that's the city that's mentioned in the book of Exodus, that Pharaoh had the children of Israel build the cities of Pithom and Ramses, the treasure cities. Well, in reality, and by the way, the builder of those cities was Ramses II, who lived in the 1200s. That's why they always plugged Ramses II in as the Pharaoh of the Exodus. And but the problem is that the children of Israel would have been gone from Egypt by 1250 for at least 150 years, at least by the dating in First Kings, and also by the destruction of the city of Jericho. So, and a lot of people discounted the Exodus altogether because the historical facts didn't fit, until they discovered that beneath the ruins of Pi-Ramses is the city of Avaris. And Avaris was the city that is filled with very Canaanite style dwellings. This is the place that has the palace that matches the description of the palace of Joseph from the book of Genesis, all during the Hyksos reign and so on, when he would have come to power. And all of those facts are there. So Avaris is the city beneath Pi-Ramses. What was Ramses II? If he was nothing, he was the great usurper of temples, of structures, of statuary, and putting his inscription on things. So what he did was he took the old city of Avaris and rebuilt it as the city of Pithom and Ramses, the cities, or Pi-Ramses. And the Bible says the Hebrews built the city, the Israelites built the cities of Pithom and Ramses. They did. They built Avaris a couple hundred years earlier, several hundred years earlier. And it was Ramses II who usurped those cities. So if you go from there, Avaris, they would have gone down to the Wadi Tumalat, which was the trade route. It's a wadi, which means it fills with water at least once a year. And but it's dry 364 days out of the year, practically. And it's a trade route. It's used as a trade route to go from the Sinai into Egypt. You can see where Cairo is. You can see where, well, you can't really see it on this map. Oh, yeah, Mennefer. Down below what is present-day Cairo is Mennefer, or ancient Memphis, where the northern capital of Egypt existed. And you can see Goshen there. And remember, in the Bible, it would sometimes say, and that same day, Moses left the palace of Pharaoh and spoke to the Hebrew leaders that night. Well, he would have gone right back up the river onto the canal and into the land of Goshen, and which is not that far away. So, as a matter of fact, Cairo to Mennefer is about 25, 30 miles. So it gives you an idea on that map, the distance. So they would have used the Wadi Tumilat, moved over to the Bitter Lakes, the northern extension of the Red Sea. I believe this is where the Red Sea crossing happened. And they would have come down. Now, according to this new theory, they went around the northern tip of the lakes, and they went all the way down the east side or the west side of Sinai, as you can see the yellow track, and they crossed over to the eastern side of the Sinai Peninsula down at the very south. And that right there between the Sinai and Saudi Arabia is the Gulf of Aqaba. And it exists there. You can see it today. You can dive there. There is a virtual land bridge just a few feet beneath the water. And there were photographs of these archaeologists as they were in wetsuits and they were diving, but they were walking waist deep across this land bridge. And they're saying, why could the Israelites not have had a moment where, if there was a miracle of God in parting the Red Sea, it parted it enough and it dried off that water atop the land bridge? So they said they used the land bridge to get across to the Saudi Peninsula. And of course, once they're in the Saudi, these explorers encountered the bitter springs that were mentioned there. They then, a short distance later, found the 12 springs. They called it the Oasis of Elim. And from there, just a short distance, was the mountain Jebel al-Laz, which they say is the real Mount Sinai. And they used all sorts of archaeological facts that they picked up, but they used as their main source on this, they used just strictly biblical text. They went by biblical text and went from site to site, from place to place, followed the track that the Israelites would have followed. And so they end up at Jebel al-Laz. And this is the scene you get when you see Jebel al-Laz. This is what it looks like. It's that mountain peak right in the middle of the picture here. And this is, and that's not shadows from the clouds. Let me give you a better picture of that peak. It looks like this. The top of that peak is covered in black. And they wanted to see what that was. They went up there. They cracked open a few rocks, and it's limestone, but covered with a black char. And the whole top of the mountain is covered in this, the peak of it. And of course, they attribute this to being the presence of God. Remember, in the Bible, it talks about the presence of God dwelt there, and there was fire. It was like, they didn't use the word volcano, but the fire of God. People couldn't even approach the mountain. They couldn't let their foot touch the foot of the mountain, and they would be destroyed. But only Moses could go up there. And this is where God supposedly dwelt. Matthew Sainsbury says Shekinah, the Shekinah glory of God. Now, I don't know if this was the Shekinah, Matthew, only because the Shekinah is supposed to be, it's a female gendered word in the Hebrew. And it's more the softer, gentler side of God. It was when Moses would speak to God in his tent face to face as a man talks to his friend. It says that God's Shekinah glory would settle on his tent. And when they dedicated the tabernacle of the covenant, the temple of Israel in the desert, the Shekinah glory of God came and settled on the ark in like a cloud, a mist. And it wasn't the fiery cloud. So I don't know. It might be the Shekinah that did that. It could very well just be the glory of God, the holiness, the wrath of God type of God, side of God, that created the fire and the brimstone type of look up there. So this is one of the things they noticed when they saw this mountain. Now, there are several other landmarks that they noticed. One of the big things they saw, I'm going to throw this picture up. And by the way, when they got there, the whole site, the whole mountain is enclosed by barbed wire. You're not supposed to go in there. Now, the barbed wire, I think, was further out even than this in a more modern picture than these guys were there 20 years ago, 20, maybe 30 years ago in the 90s or the early 2000s. But this is an altar. And they took a look at it. They slipped into the compound, fear of being arrested by the Saudi guards. But they noticed there were only 2 Saudi guards there. And there were guys smoking cigarettes and dressed in plain clothes. And they slipped in another way. They looked at this particular, and this is in the Bible, it talks about how God told the children of Israel to build an altar there. And he gave the dimensions, which seemed to match this. 30 by 30, something like that. And it's flat on top. And he said not to build it out of rough hewn stone, or rough stone, not hewn stone, not shaped stone. And so what have you got? You got basically a bunch of people who were slaves and indentured workers in Egypt. Who, what did they do? They built stone structures. They did all the artisan work on them. So they piled these unhewn stones together, created this altar. Now, all over these stones, and you can kind of see it here, and I didn't grab a picture of these up close, I don't think. No, I don't have them. But if you can see in the center and in different places, there are inscriptions of bovine creatures all over this. Calves, bulls. These guys who discovered this attributed it to the Apis bull of Egypt. I would say that it would be attributed. I've said at Serabet El Khadim that it would be the mountain of Serabet El Khadim is dedicated to the calf goddess, Hathor of Egypt. So they built a golden calf to worship her. Well, according to this is there's these no connotation to the god of Egypt here, other than all these calf drawings, and they are all over these stones, these pictographs, and they're ancient. So Hathor would have been the calf goddess at Serabet El Khadim, but not necessarily here. They think this is the Apis bull. They also found Egyptian hieroglyphs here in Saudi Arabia. They also hail to a verse in the Bible in the New Testament. I think it's in the book of Galatians, which talks about Mount Sinai having been, the Apostle Paul mentions, Mount Sinai having been in Arabia. And now it doesn't say Saudi Arabia. There was no Saudi back then, but it says Arabia. Would this be the same spot? And so they had all of those telltale signs, as well as there's something very interesting here. Let me see if I thought I put the picture of it in here. Maybe I didn't. I'm gonna try to load this picture up because I think I missed it. The split rock. I don't have that one in here. Or do I? It's not letting me load that. Let me try again. I'm going to load this picture. They found this also on the at the site. Split rock. Oh, I see what I did. I've got the wrong picture saved under split rock. I will find this as we talk about it. They found a site right on site. There is this big, very odd looking rock, and it's something like 70 feet tall, and but it's divided in two. I'm going to put split rock at double L laws. All right, we're going to find this picture, and I'm going to share this with you so you can see what it is we're talking about here. Here it is. I'm going to grab this picture. Let me copy this and paste it in here so you guys can take a look at this as well, because this is really interesting, I think. I don't think it's the dead giveaway of for this site, but I think it's something that adds to the mystique of this site, the archaeological or historical mystique of Jebel al-Lawz. Now, if you remember, what's the significance of the split rock? The split rock was when the people were dying of thirst, and they pled to Moses to plead to God to give them water. Why did you bring us out here to let us die in the, how many hundreds of times did they say that? To let us die in the wilderness. And so this is the place right here. Let me load it up now. That they think was the split rock of that passage, where it said Moses struck the rock and the rock split open and a spring gushed forth, and it filled the size of a small lake at the base of this place. And so this is that rock right here. So this is on the site. You see that rock? That rock, I think they said that's about 60 to 70 feet tall. It's pretty narrow. It's split naturally, they say, down the middle. And there are signs all through this area of water having gushed out of there and filled the surrounding area with water. So, and that was one of the reasons, by the way, that God said that Moses was not allowed to go into the land of promise after everything he had done up to that point, that Moses kept equating himself with God. God told him to speak to the rock, and that actually came later because this event happened twice. First time it was to strike the rock. The second time God told him to just speak to the rock. And Moses was mad at the people, and he says, must we always do these miraculous acts for you? And instead of speaking to it the second time it happened, he struck the rock again with the rod, and the water gushed forth. But then God condemned him for not doing as he commanded. And so Moses himself, after leading all the people out of Egypt, could not enter the promised land and had to die on the slopes of Mount Nebo, only being able to view into the promised land. Hey, Amanda Berry, good to see you over there. Nice. I don't see you very often these days, so I like to call it out. Matthew Sainsbury says the Canaanites and many absorbed Egyptian culture and customs and art. Well, I think there's lots of evidence of Egypt having influence. There were many raids on Israel, pre-occupation by Israel, raids into Canaan, and then, of course, after Israel became a nation. And so and the Bible talks about under some of the kings after the time of David and Solomon, where Egypt would come and sack a city or something like that. And so it was very interesting stuff. So I saw something else comment, and my comments keep scrolling. It's going to respond to somebody. They always built a sacred site on top of a sacred site. Exactly, Robert V. That's what they did. Let's see. Elderberry says the upheaval, the worship of the calf, is what I see. And in that altar. So now this, and also, by the way, and I don't have photos of this, so let me just put back up the photo of this mountainous area. Here it is. It's Jebel al-Lawz, which is the mountain of the law, is what it means in Arabian. I don't know if that's the language of the language of the area. Jebel al-Lawz means the mountain of the law. Now, that's interesting too. If this is where Moses got the law, and that's an ancient name for this site. So now they also, when they were at this site, they saw structures. It's hard to see the structures, but they're old ancient ruins all throughout here of different, like, there were places, they said, every like 400 yards, they were to build a marker surrounding the mountain in a big semicircle so people would not go near the mountain. And so they had these structures. They had the sites where... Okay, don't answer it then. Somebody's knocking too late at night. It's 9:41. Is the outside light on? Pardon me, radio folks. Turn on the outside light. Folks, you're going to have to give me a break here. Take a break. I'm going to run a quick ad. Somebody's knocking on our door at 9:40 at night. Let me just run a quick ad here. You guys sit tight. I'll be right back.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
All right, folks, we're back. Sorry about that little familial interlude. I guess it was time to take a little break. So my daughter's all worried at dark outside, 9:42 at night, that somebody came knocking on our door. I didn't even hear it from down here, so it was probably one of their friends from down the street who have little parental supervision, and they're out roaming the streets at 9:40 at night. So, which isn't too late in the night for most of us, but that's somebody knocked on the door, so she was all worried about it 2 minutes ago. All right, so back to it, folks. Sorry for that interruption. They found all these, as where I left off, they found all these little sites, rings of stone and things like that were marking every 400 yards around the base of this mountain. They found cattle pens next to this altar. They found stones that were hewn marble, round stones. Think of the columns they would build in antiquity. And if they weren't carved out and erected, they carved out sections, and they would stack these sections to build pillars. Well, it said that Moses erected 12 pillars to commemorate the 12 different tribes of Israel on this site. And you see these pillar segments scattered around near the base of the mountain. So there are things like this that exist there. However, the only problem with all of this is that the government of Saudi Arabia does not allow people to visit there. Well, I think you can visit now. Times have changed a little bit, but there's still the barbed wire fence. As a matter of fact, I've got a site that I called up and I was looking at that talks about, let's see, where is it? I've got it in here somewhere. And I want to see if I've still got this up. Not there. That you can go visit it, but at the same time, I think it's still closed off. They aren't allowing archaeological missions in there. So you can't go in there and just start digging. It's like in Egypt. You can't go into Avaris and have an archaeological mission at Avaris to look to see if it was an ancient Israelite city. It's just the politics. They will not allow that. So horns could be crescent moon. They could be, Amanda. So you might have, what was the symbol of Osiris, or the symbol on the calf with the Hathor with the crescent horns. Exactly. So so you can't really go in there. They can't really do in-depth archaeological study there. And as far as I know to date, you still can't go there. You still can't get a permit from the king of Saudi or the prince of Saudi or anybody to go do an archaeological mission there. There's something political about ownership of the land by Israel and so on, giving them historical or theological ownership to the land. This is why Egypt doesn't want Avaris excavated. But, I kind of think Israel isn't going to go to war over that. But that is out there, and that is one of the disputes over being able to get into these sites and excavate there. And also, you can see, by the way, in this picture that's still up, you can see running across the middle of that, the peak of this mountain is darker than the rest of the mountain, as I showed in this picture. That's one of the characteristics of the site that they say seems to fit the picture of the biblical Mount Sinai. So I think this is all very interesting stuff. And when you start to dig into this, you can find that there is something, the real Mount Sinai. Is this the real Mount Sinai? The forgotten mountain of God, as they call it. I've got this, it's from a travel site, kind of a devotional travel site. And ancient history conceals the giants of mystery. A symphony of archaeology, anthropology, epigraphy, linguistics, they all have to harmonize to unveil the truth of a site, especially if you're looking to a biblical site with historical significance. And forgotten history lays dormant, and it's buried in the sand. It's engraved on walls. It's scripted on fragments of aging parchment. And there's an old saying that rings true for these fields of research: a miss by an inch is a miss by a mile. And so you have to be deadly spot on sure when you're digging into archaeological sites. If it looks like it, you've got to make sure it's like it, not just looks like it or not just fits certain criteria. Now, these guys that went into this site and found all these different locations at this site at Jebel al-Musa or Jebel al-Lawz, it all looks like the site. It all seems to fit. But there's also a lot that has been written about why none of these archaeological sites actually fit the true archaeological picture. And so I've got some information I called up here, and I'm going to hit some of this. But why Mount Sinai is not Jebel al-Lawz. All of these things I've just shown you. Now, I'm a great one for saying that you can speculate about history, and you can have secondhand archaeology that kind of indicates something is so. Not a lot of archaeology that the Hebrews ever lived in Egypt, but there are bits and pieces of things that you piece them together. Could the same be done with the Jebel al-Lawz? So you've got to ask a couple of questions. Are the archaeological remains that were observed by the proponents of Jebel al-Lawz as Mount Sinai credible? And then do the remains match the biblical text? Now, according to these guys, remember I've told you that a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Charles Ailing, he once told me when I was writing my books, he says, remember, Scotty, when it comes to biblical history, if there's a conflict between history or what seems to be historical fact versus biblical text, he says you have to default to the biblical text if you're a believer. And I struggled with that. And I told him I really struggle with that. I don't want history to match what I believe. I want my beliefs to match what history proves is real. And so, so you have to ask, does all this stuff exist in the biblical text? And Ron Wyatt was the first guy who proposed the idea that Mount Sinai was at Jebel al-Lawz. Whatever you might think of his discoveries, he should be given full credit for this discovery. However, you got to call your attention to a recent book examining the claims of Ron Wyatt. It's entitled Holy Relics or Revelation. And it's written by a couple of different authors, Heartland House publishers. The book is a careful, meticulous, in-depth study of the claims of Jebel al-Lawz. And all these things I just went through with you, all the different sites there. And these researchers speak the truth in love, as the Bible says, but state that Ron Wyatt has not been truthful in his claims. Now, there's been more than Ron Wyatt who has gone to this site and documented these things. So some consider him a biblical con man that Their stated concern is that by mentioning Ron Wyatt, it would dignify him, that they would consider him a con man. And they feared that mentioning them in the same paragraph as Wyatt would result in guilt by association. And you have to realize that you can have proponents and opponents of any given thing, archaeologically or historically, and it doesn't necessarily mean there's guilt by association. These are just weird people do that in my book. But Ron Wyatt went to Jebel El Lawz in Saudi Arabia with his two sons in 1984, and they were arrested for entering Saudi Arabia illegally. They were expelled after 78 days they were held. And 11 months later, Wyatt returned with David Fessold and his molecular frequency generator to look for the gold of the Exodus. And again, they were expelled and made to promise that they would not return to Saudi Arabia or talk or write about their findings. So Fessold told Jim Irwin, Apollo 15 astronaut, of their discoveries. Irwin, in turn, made contact with Bob Cornuke and Larry Williams, who eventually went to Saudi Arabia at least twice in order to ascertain whether Mount Sinai was Jebel El Lawz. And both of them returned home and wrote books about their adventures. Others have since gone, taken video footage of the sites, footage that's now in videos and television programs. Just go look it up on YouTube, and you'll find some great documentaries on this. Look for the two guys, Carnews and Larry Williams, I think his name was. There was also The Exodus Case is a book you can look at that uses Ron Wyatt's materials. Now, the problems with the Jebel El Lawz location is the biggest problem with the identification as Mount Sinai is that it doesn't meet biblical criteria for the site. And now this is by one author. He brought up his view of this site. And the first questionable assumption that the proponents make is that the Sinai Peninsula was considered part of the land of Egypt. Now, that's what they said. When you enter the Sinai, because there were garrisons stationed there by the armies of Egypt back in the day of the Exodus, that all of the Sinai was Egyptian territory. It is today, most of it. It's still Egyptian territory. But so they're saying that when the Exodus took place and they went to Mount Sinai, what did they do? They left Egypt. They were out of Egypt when they went there. And so they're saying Gebel El Silsila, Sarabit El Khadim, my site for Mount Sinai, and St. Catherine's, the traditional site, are all within Egyptian territory. And that Jebel El Lawz is outside of Egyptian territory across the Gulf of Aqaba. So now we're going to pick this up again tomorrow night because there's a lot more details I want to go through. And I want to go through again what I believe to be the Mount Sinai site at Sarabit El Khadim. And we'll talk about this more a little bit tomorrow night. But this is fascinating stuff, and I'll have more pictures to show you of these things. So in just a few seconds, we've got to say goodbye to our radio audience. And so I just want to thank you all for being here. If you want to stick around for a little bit after we go off air on the radio station, you can stick around for the Captain's Cabin, which will be coming up very shortly, right after the end credits here. So all of you who are here tonight over on the radio station, I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. I appreciate you being here. And so for now, until next time, I'm just going to tell you, live long and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
Well, welcome to the captain's cabin, everyone. Happy Monday night. Hope you enjoyed the show. There's more of that to come tomorrow. I think this is fascinating stuff, especially if it's been part of your faith, your theology, teaching or learning or understanding over the years. I also think no matter what you believe faith-wise, if you can find the history and the archaeology to substantiate a story of faith in the Bible, that's pretty impressive, I think. And there are so many, and I've talked about it a million times. Hey, Ryan Gale, bring the captain his red shirt and his brown pants. There it is. That's what I need. My brown coat. So I've mentioned this before, and those of you who are fascinated with history, one of the discoveries, there was an archaeological discovery which lent credence to the story in the Bible, was the story of Pontius Pilate's cornerstone found in Caesarea Philippi, which was the Roman capital of Judea on the up near it's on the hello, I can talk. It was and I haven't even had any rum. Over on the shore of the Mediterranean, and in Israel, and at Caesarea Philippi in the early 1960s, they were doing some excavation work and some digging, and they found some old buildings, and there was an old stairway that they uncovered, and it was built out of repurposed stone over the centuries. And one of the stones on this stairway was a stone that bore an inscription, and it dated back to I don't know how they dated it exactly, but it had a date that was equivalent to I believe the late 20s AD in first century Judea. And it was a cornerstone that said Praefectus Pontius Pilatus, or Pontius Pilatus Praefectus Judea, dedicating a gymnasium to Tiberius Caesar. And it was repurposed stone into an old staircase that dated back within a few hundred years of that. And so, or after that. And what's interesting about this is that up until that point, there had been no hard archaeological evidence that Pontius Pilate ever existed, other than a few scant mentions in history, which should be enough. As Dr. Ailing told me, one scant mention in history of something can mean that that thing existed. That's proof that there was something that they were referencing. And so it was the first hard archaeological evidence that Pontius Pilate was ever the governor of Judea or the prefect of Judea. And I like to hail back to that. That's why I think history is important. Now, does that discovery of that cornerstone, does it prove that Jesus was the Son of God? No. Does it prove the story of Jesus? No. What it does prove is the existence of a man mentioned who was the governor of Judea during the lifetime and the trial of Jesus. That's all that does, that cornerstone. And so what does that do? That is a building block in the story to say, hey, now we know the guy actually existed and was actually the governor of Judea. So long history of repurposing, says Sarah Yusuf. Yes, everything's been repurposed throughout history, it seems. So, hey, Galactic Cat, good to see you there. I don't usually drink soda this late at night. I was so thirsty, I had to grab something. So my voice is slowly but surely recovering. Getting there, folks. So I would, as of tomorrow, it'll be 2 weeks since I contracted COVID. Wednesday, it'll be 2 weeks since I was diagnosed with it. It was pretty much the hard part of it was the hard part being totally fatigued, totally not able to get out of bed, not because I was in pain or anything like that, but just fatigued, absolutely fatigued and worn out for the first 4 days. That's what made me think, oh, but I got COVID again. And sure enough. So, but it's been passing day by day. It's getting better and better. So, sounds normal now, says Sarah. It's not normal quite yet. I guarantee it, my dear. It's still a little scratchy and a little rough, but it's getting a lot better. And the weekend was good recovery time. So every day a little bit better, and I'm still a little fatigued, but not bad. I mean, about 6:30 this evening, I thought, oh, it's 2.5 hours till radio time, and I'm just wiped out. So I just laid down for an hour, and I was fine. So it's that fatigue that still is a bit settled on me. And so enough on that. So history is, I think biblical archaeology is important. Now, I will let you on into a little secret here. Yeah, there it is, June. It's that Rod Stewart raspy effect. I'm raspy when I sing to my kids now. But I can't hold a note right now. My voice just crackles all over the place. So what was I going to say? I got to let you in on a little secret about myself. I am, well, first of all, I think you all know this. I'm not an atheist at all. Some people will say I live and sound and speak like a practical atheist, and I'm not. I still am a man of faith of a certain degree and a certain level. I have a lot of questions that remain unanswered. For me, history and finding that there are things in biblical history that ring true are things that are faith bolsterers to me. I know when John Ward and I were in the Sinai, and when we were at Sarabat el-Khadim and climbed up to the top of Sarabat el-Khadim, even John, who is less or more of a biblical minimalist than I am, said, Scotty, says, this reinvigorates my old faith. It's kind of lights a match. And he says, it's a little scary. And this, what we were doing, the things we were looking for. Hey, Galactic Cat, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think I'm the only one sick. I think my son got it for a while, but he's been in Alaska with Rainey for 2 weeks. So he's doing fine. They're home this Thursday, by the way. They come home. So Rainey and Flynn will be back. And back into the daily grind. So Uncle Dave says, one can have faith and question dogma. This is very true. I question dogma. So, excuse me, it's the carbonated drink. So that's where I'm at. So that's the little hidden secret is I'm not a man of no faith. I'm a man of questioned faith and still questioning, still asking questions. So, hey, Susie Q, welcome. Welcome to the after show. Good to have you. And let's see. I'm still croupy, says Elderberry. Oh, yeah. You had it too, right? So, Elderberry. So, and it's supposed to hit us old guys harder. So, that was my big fear when COVID first came out. When we got it was nearly 2 years ago, about a year and 9 or 10 months ago. And was when I got it and Rainey got it and two of the kids got it. It was interesting too, with all the isolate at home and wear masks and all of this, so you don't spread it around out to the world. Well, here we are at home. 4 of the 5 of us had COVID, and the one kid never got it. So we think she had it somewhere along the way, but she didn't have it when we had it. So it was very interesting. And so, and even back then, I only had it. It hit me hard, but we were a lot of us were afraid of COVID way back when it was first all announced. They shut down the schools. They did this. They did that. Sequester yourself at home. Wear masks. And so we did a lot of that. And at the same time, I questioned it. Is this really helping? But I was afraid because I had that trifecta, over 60, diabetes, and heart disease. So I had 3 things that were supposed to be really dangerous. Uncle Dave, rum the damn thing and chase it out of your system. Rum the damn thing. I almost got a bottle of rum today. And I only had a few bucks in my pocket at the gas station. And I thought, I'm not going to spend it on rum. They had some Captain Morgan rum at the gas station. So I didn't get that. So we were afraid of COVID at the beginning, like everybody else. And then I had COVID. This is back before they were promoting the vaccination. And we had it December to January of December 2019 to 2000. Wait, is that right? 2020 to 2021. Yeah, that's right. Because it was last year in January when it ended for us. So, and it wasn't a big push for the shots yet. And we had known a couple of people who died as a result of COVID. At least we thought they died of COVID. Somebody that was in his 30s that we knew. And then somebody I knew in Egypt died within the next month or so of it. Is a dear friend, British woman who she and her Egyptian husband, he was a master chef, and they owned a restaurant, an English restaurant British restaurant in Luxor, Egypt, called the Lantern. And so she died. I don't know the details. I just remember John Ward contacted me and told me, she died. And that was very sad. That was way back in February or March of last year. So we were a little bit afraid at the time. And so we sequestered until we kept hearing more and more data about it. We had it. And then found when all the questions about the vaccine and all that came up, we had our antibodies tested. We were through the ceiling. And then all the reports started coming out later in the year, how all the studies in Europe and Israel were stating that if you've had COVID, your antibodies are higher than if you got the vaccine. It was safer for you. And so we started hearing all this information. So we never got vaccinated. I still am not pro-vaccination. If you want to get vaccinated and are, that's totally up to you. It's your call. And I wouldn't condemn anybody for doing it, but I had a big issue with it at the time, especially because it was experimental. It was being rushed through. It was too overtly politicized. And as I said at the time, I remember saying to my own doctor, this was December of last year, so like about 10 months ago. He said, you sure you don't want to get the poke? And I said, doc, I got a problem with it. I said, right now there's all this stuff about constitutional speech regarding it, the constitutional right to refuse it, and people labeling you and canceling you as a bad person because you're not taking the vaccination, which would save everybody else. And I didn't buy it. And I said, anything, doc, that becomes a red flag for me, anything where the government has to start bribing people to take it, bribing kids to take it, firing people, making sure people lose their jobs if they don't take it. All of this, I said, smacked of being unconstitutional. It smacked of being about as fascist as you could be, even though it was supposedly for health. Then they find out, and now I find out that a lot of people who took the vaccination still got sick anyway. Some people I know have the long haulers version, and they were vaccinated and got all the boosters, and they still got the long haulers version or edition of. So what do? Is there anything that can really defeat it? Not really. And the vaccination was only good until you needed the booster. And then the next booster, then the next one, then the next one. So I had a lot of questions. So we stayed clear of vaccination. Both Rainey and I. We had a big problem with it. Still too experimental. Still not tested enough. Would there be a day I would get it? Well, if it was found to be useful. I used to get flu vaccinations every year. And until there was a point where Rainey said, don't take the flu vaccination. And she had her reasons. So I stopped taking those. Well, hi. How are you?
Hi.
Hey, everybody. Look who's on my phone. It's Rainey.
Hello.
Say hey to Rainey. So how you doing, baby?
Hi, everybody. Do you miss me?
Yeah, they do. They're like, when's Rainey going to come back so we don't have to hear Scotty talk so much?
Right.
That's it. So she's still in Alaska, folks. There we are, side by side. So
I got 2 more full days and I'm home on Thursday.
2 more full days and home on Thursday. I got to look up your flight times and all that. So
I'll be home about 9:30.
At night?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's fine. So we'll even come and get you.
Yay.
So
I'm glad.
yeah.
Make sure the back of the car is cleaned out. I'm going to have 2 boxes of fish again.
I'm sure. Yeah, we'll have it all cleaned up. So nice to see you, Rainey, says Matthew Sainsbury. What's the fish count? As Sarah Yusuf.
I don't even know what the fish count is.
Do you know how many pounds you're bringing home? Do you know how many pounds you're bringing home?
2.
No. She brought home like 83 last year. So we're just talking about stuff. Hello, Rainy Deer, says Uncle Dave. So
Hey, Uncle Dave.
there it is. There's the Uncle Dave look. So good. What are you going to do for 2 more days in Alaska?
We might go to a glacier tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
We went fossil hunting today. We went to Sutton,
2,000, Dave. Send us 2,000.
Coyote Lake, and we dug up plant fossils. You didn't even have to dig it up. It was just laying on the side of the hill.
Well, that's kind of cool. I wish the lighting was better to pick your face up better. I only bring it up way close so you can actually see your face.
Is that better if I back off?
No, it's just the light. It burns you out a little bit. So, but that's okay. Susie Q says hi. So,
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Galactic Cat says hi. And everybody else.
Hi, everybody else.
So, nice, clean, crisp communication here from Alaska tonight. Of course, you're not
too bad.
You're not up at the cabin now. You're at the house. So,
Right? You know what's really bad is my phone worked while I was here all last week, and then we went to the cabin and came back. I can't get phone calls. I'm not getting messages, text messages, or voice messages.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's very
I don't
odd.
know what to do. I've tried to go through my settings. I've turned my phone on and off like 30 times.
Yeah. Come home soon, says Sarah Yusuf. She'll be home on Thursday, right during the middle of the show. So we'll be playing a rebroadcast on Thursday, folks.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, everybody. I'm a little bit more important.
there's Morgan Snow. Good to see you, she says. And Michelle Canham Flea. Flea. That was good. So everybody's saying hi. You can see over here on the chat room. So anyway.
Well, it is dinner time here, so I should let you go.
Okay, I'm going to give you back to the kid so she can talk to you a little bit more.
I was going to hang up with them too. They just told me I had to talk to you.
Oh, well, I'm glad they did that. So, okay. Well, I love you. I miss you.
I love you too.
I love you too. I miss you too.
I love you too.
Okay, I'll let you go now. Oh. The small child is in protest. Must talk to you again. Come and get it. You're pooping. There you go, folks. Welcome to my family. Welcome to my home. So here, I'm going to go hand this to my daughter. I'll be right back, but not far.
Well, somebody tried to scare me in the outhouse.
Oh, really? What'd they do?
I realized that I knew that they were trying to scare me, so I flung the door open when I was pooping.
Nice.
Kate's just laughing.
That's funny. Here, I'm going to give you to Ellie. I love you. I'll talk to you later.
Love you too.
Bye. I'm going to close your door here, Ellie. All right, folks. I'm coming back. There we go. My lovely wife, Rainey. Family time. Pooping time is family time. That's something my kids have grown up. Rainey is about as unbashful as they come. And of course, Rainey and I, almost since the day we knew each other, have been walking around naked in the house together forever, 17 years. So, are you talking to me? Well, you know what it is. Mom still does it. And then, of course, everybody goes to the bathroom. Nobody closes the door around here except me. And then they close the door on me anyway if I don't. So it's just the way it is. Dad pooping is different than mom pooping, I guess. So you all get it. You all get family time, what it's like. So our family is just that way. I don't walk naked around my kids. Rainey does. But not so much around Flynn, because Flynn's starting to get to that age where he's very bashful about it. And it's not like I'm flaunting my nakedness. She's just naked. She walks from the shower to the bedroom naked, or from the bedroom to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee naked. And it's like, oh, sorry, didn't know everybody was up. And so there you go. I closed the door too, Uncle Dave. I really don't like people participating in my poo time. So let's see. Don't ask a fisherman how many. It's undisclosed information until they get home. Oh, there you go. So, hey, Rainey, says Elderberry. Rainey's gone already. She's on the phone with the little one in the bathroom. Get your sister to help you. Rowan, help your sister. Upstairs. Some right out here at the bottom of the stairs, come to think of it, the rest of that package.
I was sleeping.
I'm sorry. I'm on radio. Kind of. So somebody needed toilet paper. It's like, hey, folks, hold on for a second while I go get my child some toilet paper. Hey, radio audience, hold on for a second while I go get my child a roll of toilet paper. I know you did. Thank you. So anyway, there you go. Nice pictures of the mountains in the Arabian Peninsula. Thank you, Matthew Sainsbury. And so it's pretty cool. Yeah. David Otness says hi to Rainey. Rainey's gone now. I don't have her here anymore on the phone. That was kind of nice to share her with you on screen for a few minutes. So, what'd somebody say about poop? Keep on rolling, says Rudy Kessler. Everybody poops. That's right, Uncle Dave. Everybody poops. You can deny it all you want, folks. Everybody farts and everybody poops. Now, we don't have to share that with everybody. Not the fact that we poop or fart, but we don't have to share the actual things with anybody. TB for the bunghole, for thy bunghole. Exactly, June Shasta. So, yeah, Rowan's all lippy. You're not sleeping. You couldn't talk to me if you were sleeping. Gotcha. You're sleep talking. So she didn't want to get up and get the toilet paper for Ellie because she was sleeping. So I said, hey, I'm on radio. Kind of. I'm on a podcast now. Now that we're off radio today. So, yeah, on Thursday, let me reiterate that. I will not be here Thursday because we're going to go pick up Mom. Oh, I thought you were sleeping.
You were closer to the toilet paper than I was.
Yeah, but I was on here.
And I was on my phone.
So you weren't sleeping. You were on your phone.
No, I was sleeping.
Oh, you were sleeping on your phone.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. All right. So you all get it. How's that for family interlude? A poo, poo, a pee, pee. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Elderberry. It's the way it rolls around here.
Bye, Mom. Love you.
Bye, Mom. Love you.
Uncle Curie wants to know if your poop stinks.
No.
Your poop doesn't stink? Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. There she is. One more time, everybody. My beautiful wife. There she is. All right, baby.
Bye.
I love you.
Bye. Love you.
I'll probably talk to you tomorrow. Okay. Okay, I'm going to hang up.
Bye.
Don't put your foot up there. What are you doing? She's kicked my mic. All right, bye.
She already had enough fun.
There you go. What are you doing that for? Come on now. Kids. I'm telling you. So, anyway, all the way back to the beginning of that, I hope you enjoy this topic. We're still going to be on it a little bit tomorrow night. Unless it extends beyond that. There's so much cool stuff to talk about when it comes to biblical archaeology. There's a lot of cool stuff because it lines up with things that we know about. And when you can find archaeology and historical data that matches up to tales that you know, it's like even take it out of the biblical realm and go into, I study a lot of English history and history of Great Britain and Scottish history. And you go to places where you say, oh, it'd be like going to a place and saying, this is where the Battle of Stirling Bridge took place. This is where the original Stirling Bridge would have stood, where William Wallace held off the British and defeated them in that battle. You could stand on that spot and say, that happened right here. And that's a cool thing. Or you go into a room and you say, something happened right here in this room, in this castle. You go to the Tower of London and you say, that's the Water Gate. That's the Traitors' Gate. And who came in through those gates off the river? So it's really fascinating stuff when you can align history with places. So we were at Caerphilly Castle, which was built by Edward I, Longshanks, in Wales, Aberfeldy, and places like that. So neat stuff. Rainey should start an Alaskan fishing guide service. Elderberry, she and her sister had actually talked about that. Not so much a guide service, but a place that people can come and fish on their site on the river there, and they process it and all of that. I don't know what all is involved in it. I've never been up there yet. So I can't tell Kate and Carrie hello, Uncle Dave, because I'm off the phone already. So Morgan Snow, good night, everyone. Need some more healing sleep. Go take care of that, Morgan. Get that healing sleep in. And same here. I think pretty quick here, I'm going to get off of here. And maybe tomorrow night, we've kind of fallen out of the habit of having Uncle Dave call in and Professor Bauer call in. I think that week that I was off, we'll get back into the habit and have some interesting captain's cabins and some interesting discussions going on. So let's let that be it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for being part of the cabin. Bring the rum next time. And until tomorrow, live long and prosper.